Hey everyone, welcome to Relationship Matters Mailbag. I'm really excited for this project. It's a collaboration between myself, Mark Gordon, and my good friend Drew Stevens, who is the leader of Beyond the Legacy. It's an amazing, amazing organization and journal that he has developed. And I'm just really excited. We're doing this together in the summer. And we are just doing, it's called Mailbag because we are just going to take questions about relationships and we're going to answer those questions. So Drew, what do we got going this week?
Okay, so this week we're kicking off the whole week, the whole episode 1 with why is it important to have a healthy relationship with yourself? Like that is a question that I'm selfishly asking. And I think that is where we should kick off the show. Like before you add anyone into your life, before you start dating, before you start adding friends and start adding extra people and energy into your life, why is it important to have a healthy relationship with yourself?
Yeah, it's such a great question, Drew, because I think a lot of people don't think about it. You know, I always say there's 3 primary relationships we have. One is with our creator, one is with ourselves, and the other is with others. And a lot of times we don't put too much thought into the first 2 and we struggle with the last one. And so one of the best ways you can probably intentionally have healthy relationships is to start developing a healthy relationship with yourself. And we're going to explain a little bit about that. I can share maybe even from my own life. When I was growing up, I didn't have a good self-worth. I really believed that I was a failure. I had a fear of failure. It didn't seem like anything I did was good enough. And so I had this belief, this limiting belief in me that I was a failure. So that was how I related to myself. Everything that I heard, everybody I related to, it went through that grid of me thinking I was a failure. And here's why that happens, really. I often use this illustration just to help people understand this, but I take a water bottle. So I got one right here, nice and full of water. And I use water because we're made up 80% of water, and we can't live without water. So I tell people all the time, your family, your circle of influence absolutely needs you because you're valuable. You are so valuable, and this part of you is the most sensitive part of you. And so there's a few inherent things that I believe every human is born with. One is they're born with the desire to love and be loved. In fact, I would go so far as to say a lot of people seek significance. Significance comes from being loved and being able to express love. And so when we don't receive that, we tend to look to significance in things that are negative or things that bring harm to our lives. In my case, it was drugs and alcohol. You're right. I had addiction issues for years. It was because I was self-medicating because I didn't feel significant. But what I found out in my healing journey was it was because I really didn't believe I was lovable. And I didn't have the ability to love because I was a failure. The second thing is I believe everybody has hopes and dreams. I've never met anybody that doesn't have a hope or a dream. Now, I've met lots of people whose hopes and dreams are buried under a rubble of hurt and pain in life. But if we start digging, we find actually there is some hopes and dreams there. And the next one is gifts and abilities. Everyone has gifts and abilities. And here's what I believe. I believe we were given these gifts and abilities to express and receive love and to fulfill the hopes and dreams. That's why they're connected. And the last one is a desire to succeed. I believe that everybody has a desire to succeed. I think our society has messed up what success is. My definition is doing the best you can with what you have. And so under that definition, if I express love the best I can with what I have, if I can receive love the best I can with what I have, if I chase my dreams, my hopes and my dreams the best I can with what I have, if I use my gifts and abilities to my best ability with what I have, I believe I'm successful. And by that definition, probably many of our listeners are successful when they didn't even know they were. And so that's kind of the core person. The reason why it's so important that we get to know ourselves and relate to ourselves is we need to relate to that part of us. But here's the problem, Drew. What we do is we have hurts and pains in life. Sometimes we grow up in an environment like I did that was angry and harsh. And that's why I didn't think I could ever succeed. And so what do I do to protect this part of me? It's the most sensitive part. What do I do to protect it? I'll put a wall around my heart. Now, am I still there? Sure, I am. That person that wants to be loved and to love, and that person with gifts and abilities, hopes and dreams, desire to succeed. Yeah, I'm still there, but I'm not relating to myself any longer in an appropriate way. I'm relating to myself through the walls that I build around my heart. And what happens then, Drew, is two things. I start making decisions from the walls instead of who I really am. So, for example, I might put a wall of anger up around my heart to protect that part of me that is so sensitive. Because I was hurt as a kid in a very angry home, I would put a wall of anger up because that's what I thought you had to do to survive. And so I put that wall of anger around my heart. So guess what? I was making decisions from anger instead of who I really was. I put a wall of addiction around my heart so that I could self-medicate. I didn't want to face that failure. And so what happened is I would put this wall of addiction around my heart, and I made decisions from the wall instead of who I really was. The other thing that took place was I started getting identified by the walls. I mean, have you ever been misjudged or misunderstood? I mean, most people have. Anytime I ask that question in a workshop, people say, yeah, I've been misunderstood.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the reason is because they're relating to the walls instead of who you really are. Oh, there's the bully. Oh, there's the jerk. Oh, there's the, whatever label, there's the addict, right? Well, that didn't define me. Yes, it was a big problem in my life. It affected my life horribly. But that is not what defines me. What defines me is that I am a person who loves and wants to be loved. I have hopes and dreams. I have gifts and abilities. And so my value is not determined by the inability of someone else to be able to see it. That's why it's so important to relate to yourself. You've got to learn how to have a healthy relationship with yourself, understanding, having self-awareness, understanding that, you know what, I have value because of this. And so I choose to take those walls down. I can't take those walls down for you. Nobody can take the walls down, but I choose to take it down. And how I do that is by learning how to relate to myself, learning what gives me value, surrounding myself with people that provide value to me, and making sure I'm not with people that don't. And then what happens is my self-esteem gets built up.
So like what you just shared there in terms of the example, it's a great example to how your past can speak to your present and future in terms of everything you endured. So I look at it from from my perspective. I look at it from owning your reality too, right? So
yes,
at a young age to present day, you have to say to yourself, are you willing to own your reality?
Yeah.
Do you love yourself enough to allow the right energy, the people, places, and things into your life that are the right energy that deserves you and that you deserve as well?
So true.
So I think it's very important. I think in a lot of people, if you don't love yourself and if you don't own that reality, you're going to allow toxic things to happen to you. You're going to allow people to take advantage of you. You're going to say, like, why is this always happening to me? Or why am I always attracting these things into my life? And the truth is, own your reality. Like, it probably a future subject we're going to get into is think about scenarios where someone is pointing the finger at exes and say, well, my ex was this, and they were so opportunistic, and they were toxic, and they start listing all these things. But the truth is, look in the mirror and say, you were accepting that into your life.
Yeah.
You accepted that energy and those things that you're talking about. We're not saying you're lying. We're saying they could be those things, but as a good, healthy starting point, you have to own those things and say, hey, wait a second, I was accepting that into my life at that point in time. It needs to stop here, and here's how. And like all the examples you're sharing in terms of how you heal and how self-esteem comes into play and how you find value within yourself. It's important.
Yeah. Well, speaking of how, here the two greatest growth opportunities for me that came in my life to learn how to relate to myself was when I started taking responsibility for myself and my decisions and my choices. And the second was when I stopped taking responsibility for other people's feelings and their decisions and how they were reacting. And when I did those two things, when I started taking responsibility for me and stopped taking responsibility for others, it actually allowed me to grow and learn more about myself. And it actually allowed me to learn more about them. A lot of people think conflict is a negative thing. It's not a negative thing. Max Lucado says conflict is inevitable, combat's optional. A lot of times we've experienced combat when we're talking about conflict, but conflict's actually an invitation to learn. It's an invitation to grow deeper in a relationship. So even within yourself, that conflict within yourself of your value and who you are actually will help you if you continue to conflict, if you continue to do battle for who you are, you will actually be able to break through and your emotional intelligence grows. Now, this is primarily because of three things I talk about in my book. One is self-esteem, one is self-image, and one is self-dignity. So the best way to change this and start having a healthy relationship with yourself is to start working on the self-esteem, self-image, and self-dignity. Because here's the deal. If I don't feel good about myself, how am I going to feel good about anyone else? If I don't see myself in the right light, how can I see others in the right light? If I don't treat myself well, I self-medicate, I do things, I sabotage relationships. What happens is then I won't treat others properly either. I'll tend to deflect blame. I'll tend to not take responsibility, to shift responsibility to others. It's all their fault, instead of if I learn how to relate to myself, because then I can take responsibility. So self-esteem is when we start to feel good about ourselves. So self-esteem is how you feel about yourself. Self-image is how you see yourself. Self-dignity is how you treat yourself. So how do you change your feeling towards yourself is you need to start looking at yourself through a different lens. I always say if you look out a window and it's a brick wall and ugly, and there's another window on the other side of the room and it's got a beautiful view to the garden, which one are you going to look out? You want to look out the nice window, right? The view. And so it's the same thing. We need to change our self-image to be able to change our self-esteem. And when we do that, we'll automatically, an outcome will be that we'll treat ourselves better. It speaks to what you said. We won't allow people, we'll put boundaries up. We won't allow people to treat us poorly because we have a healthy relationship with ourselves. It's when we don't that we do the other stuff, right? And so, so what we do is we just start to look at our self-image and say, who do I want to be? Who do I feel like I am in my purest form? I think for example, for me in that journey, I came to the conclusion that I'm an encourager, that I want to give courage to people. And I also came to the conclusion that I want to give value to people. I want them to see their value. So in my healing journey, that's what I discovered. And so at the core of who I am, because I love, because I am loved, because I have hopes and dreams, because I have gifts and abilities and I'm successful, I now can be an encourager. So I see myself as an encourager. So guess what that does? When I'm out and about and I get bad service in a restaurant, I can't be mean to that server. I can't be disrespectful to that server. I want to be a person who encourages. So what I want to do is give that server courage so they can serve better. And so it changes my whole attitude. It had a complete transformation in my life because I started seeing from that place. Instead of looking at the walls, oh, she provided terrible service. What a horrible place this is. It must be just me. They don't, there's something about me they don't like. And you go through that narrative in your head and pretty soon I'm acting out of my walls and I'm calling them down and I'm trash talking them and I'm angry and I'm making a big scene. No, that used to be me. But who I believe I was, when I went through this process, I started to choose who I was. I started to take these walls down. I said, no, I'm a compassionate person. I'm an encourager. And it changed my attitude. So now I am free because I have a healthy relationship with myself. I am free to have a healthy relationship with others.
So, that was just well said. And I do have two questions I'll hit you with in a second, but let me dive into what I believe in with my principles of Beyond the Legacy, my LLC, and that's legacy, right? So
yes,
who you are is going to define in terms of all of your life choices, how you impact people, your actions, the words we speak, all those various things are tied back to your legacy, right? So who do you want to be? Who do you want to be? Whether who you were in your 20s wasn't who you truly wanted to be, and then you're going to evolve into something in your 30s and then your 40s. But to me, It's who you want to become. You know, you can be
Yes.
that incrementally better every day. So don't feel like just because I don't have everything figured out today, I am a failure. You know, and
Totally.
just because this happened in my past, unfortunately, growing up, that's why I will never have a healthy relationship with
Right.
someone down the road. Right. So, like, you can break the cycle. And I think one other thing I really like to point out is when I have private conversations with people that I've engaged with beyond the legacy or just in life, one of the things that I take pride in is how you make people feel.
Yeah.
Because how you make people feel is something that they will always remember. They will either have a great association with you, an okay association with you, or a terrible association with you. So that person that is serving you food at the restaurant, they might come back at the end of their day and say, there was this kind man that gave me actually encouragement and told me this and did that. And it made me look at how I was doing things that day. And it's changed the course of history for me. That's how you made them feel based on your encouragement and your words and your inspiration. So, like, how you make people feel is a big factor. But my question to you, Mark, is whether you're someone that's younger, so meaning maybe a parent or a mentor or someone that is guiding someone younger, or whether you experience so much and you just are beaten up and you have low self-esteem and you feel like you have no value, or the example you shared with me, with what you experienced with substance, like you don't find or see the value in yourself. And how does one, in two parts, I know this is a 30-minute show, but in two parts, how does a parent or someone guide someone that is their child, to a better path towards self-esteem, self-image, and all the various things? And then part two, how does someone that is later in life build that strength and courage to break out of having no self-worth or esteem at that point in life?
Well,
It's a lot.
it is. Those are two big questions. We could do an episode on each. But let me give you the short version. One thing is we leave a legacy whether we know we are or not.
Yes.
It's either positive or negative. And I would rather live with intention than by accident. So the answer to your first question is live intentionally. You have to understand that if you have someone that's younger than you, that you're investing, that you have in your circle, you need to invest in them. You need to invest in them with affirmation, invest in them with facilitation, invest in them with encouragement, right? Giving them courage. That's what encouragement means. And so what you want to do, and the one thing I discovered, by the way, as a side note, when I started doing that for others, I was encouraged. I got built up because when I was investing in others, a lot of things I would say to them, and it's like, "Ooh, that's for me too," and or they would reciprocate, or they'd ask a question that like pulled something out of me I didn't know was there. And so it's such a great privilege to mentor others and to intentionally invest in them. For parents, I would say take a strength-based approach. See what's strong, not what's wrong in the child. Even if they have a strong will, don't call them stubborn. Call them determined. And the other thing is separate personhood from behavior. So when you have somebody that is acting out, they're behaving poorly, it's because they've experienced something in their life. There's probably something more going on beneath the surface. There's always cause and effect. And so you really want to be able to be patient and take in a curiosity position with them instead of a judgment position. Be curious and ask them questions why they're doing the things they're doing. Identify and acknowledge their feelings, how they might be feeling. And that will give you the right to speak into their lives. And so that's the answer to the first question. The second question is, how do you make that change? How do you start, especially if it's been a long time, how do you start changing that? You've got to make a decision to change your belief system. You have created a belief system within the narrative of your own thoughts of the kind of person that you think you are. And a lot of times and that comes from a negative place, what's happened is we've taken partial truths from other people that have said to us over the years and all that kind of stuff. And we really haven't really sat down and asked ourselves those hard questions. So I always say you got to push back on limiting beliefs. if you're having a belief about yourself that's negative, like I did, fear of failure, I had a fear that I would fail. I even had a fear of success because I thought if I did succeed, it would just I'd wreck it anyway. So what's the point in succeeding? And so this fear of failure was so pervasive in me, I had to start pushing back on it and challenging it. And I had to challenge those core beliefs. Is it true that I'm not lovable? No, that's not true. Is it true that I'm a failure all the time? No, I don't fail all the time. If I fail, is it an indictment against my nature and character? No, it just means that I have something to learn and that I can grow from it. So you've got to start challenging those limiting beliefs to be able to break that and to start building self-esteem. You got to start building self-image. And so you got to look at that, like you said, what kind of person do I want to be remembered for? It's the old tombstone exercise, right? Like, what do I want said as an epitaph on my tombstone? And then work backwards with goals to get to that place that you would be worthy of what that is on your tombstone. So for me, I want it to say that I showed people their value, and so is my actions today? Am I showing myself value? If I'm not showing myself value, I'm never going to show anyone else value. So for me, I had to start looking at who I wanted to be, and and then make those I am statements, those declarations, even looking at myself in the mirror and saying, I am compassionate. I am an encourager. And people will ask me, well, aren't I just faking it till I make it? And I said, no, don't fake it till you make it. Declare it until you believe it.
Yes.
There's a mic drop.
That's the quote I love. I'm going to write that one down. Obviously,
don't fake it till you make it. Be authentic. Be authentically real. And it's okay to say, you know what, I make that declaration. It feels uncomfortable. I'm not sure I'm there yet, but don't stop making it, because if you declare it enough, your brain will start to believe it. And what you're doing is recreating neuroplasticities in your brain. Every time you say it, declare it, you're creating a new neuroplasticity in your brain. You're regrooving your brain to the positive and to who you want to be, instead of it being grooved to who you were when you were a kid and who you thought you were because of the way you grew up. And so you can't change the past, you can't change the future, but you can work on today. And that's what I do every single day.
Well, it's a beautiful, I'll sort of bring everything full circle with something I'm doing beyond legacy for 2022. Every year I have a theme. The first year was gratitude. The second year was family is everything. The third year was united we rise. The fourth year was aspire to inspire. This year I have a bracelet. It's going to sort of come up in the thing. Live your dash. Right? Yeah. So there's a poem called The Dash, and it's based on the idea of we're born into this world. Then eventually there's going to come a time that we're going to pass and die and move on. Like there's going to be that moment of it's inevitable, right? Death is inevitable. And that middle is on your tombstone is that dash. So what are you doing in that middle? And it goes back to like on the back of it is, to live your life with purpose and gratitude. So like it's a reminder to folks that every day matters. Every day that you wake up, you're blessed to wake up. You have an opportunity to make a difference. You could impact others. You can change the narrative of your legacy. So like all those things, like, this was quite a show. We're sort of getting towards the tail end of our, 30 minutes, but I feel like these are the types of conversations that I want people to have, after watching a show like this. I want this to be a shareable podcast that people can say, hey, I need to share this with my friend. I need to share this with someone that's my spouse. I need to share this with people in my community on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn. Like that is the purpose of why we're doing this summer series. It's to have these conversations, to, for me selfishly, to lean on your expertise, Mark, as a coach, and you lead so many workshops and you're a public speaker, like all the various things I love about you in terms of what you do and how you help others and how you have an amazing story. You could probably see his book in the background, Relationship Matters. You can find that on his website. We'll have the links. We'll put the links in the comments so people will see the links to all these things. And I have my journal, Journal of Personal Impact, which allows people to do their self-reflection of themselves. And, to me personally, that is, there you go. See, not that we plan these things, right? So like, Mark, you got yours hanging
No,
up, and you got mine
it's
in your
actually
hand. So
it's actually always right near me because I pick it up and write in it. So
love it. Yeah, and it's a different journal. Yeah, obviously, you could tell, Mark, you could share your own narrative, but it's tabbed and it's based on purpose in terms of gratitude and words of wisdom and overcoming adversity. Like, I have different tabs and themes that people can
yeah.
write in, and it's not a daily journal, so don't feel the pressure to log something daily.
Well,
It's
and
something that you do on the moment.
and for your clients that might be watching this that have picked up that journal, here's what you write in that journal for today. Live on purpose, not by accident. Live on
Yeah.
purpose, not by accident. Declare it until you believe it. Stop faking it until you make it. There you go.
I
There's
feel
your
people are going to watch this. They're going to hopefully write down some things on their notepad on their phone, some little mic drop moments, some cool gems and pearls that we're sharing. But we always like to close the show. We still have time, but like, we always like to close the show with some type of challenge, right? So like some type of challenge. Do you want to go first? Or you want me to go first in terms of this challenge?
Sure, I'll go first because I'll go first, and then I'll let you wrap things up. So here's my challenge. If you don't have that journal, pick one up. But if you don't have it, just use a piece of paper. Write a paragraph using words that maybe you've even heard in this conversation. But write a paragraph of who you want to be. Start changing the narrative by actually writing it out and read it out loud to yourself. So that's my challenge for you. Walk away from this. Start changing the way you see yourself. And so how you do that is to write a paragraph or two or a page, write down what kind of person you want to be. If you're loved, if you love well, if you are living out your hopes and dreams, if you are using your gifts and abilities and you're successful, what would that look like for you? And write that down. That's your challenge for this week from Mark.
Love that. I mean, that's just something that is healthy from a standpoint of writing, right? So like, we're always used to typing or doing something on our mobile device, but physically write it out, speak it into existence. My challenge is reach out to at least 3 friends. You could do more. You might find like this, like, exciting. You might say, I need to do a few more of these, but find at least 3 friends. Someone that's known you almost your whole life. Someone that's somewhere in the middle that has known you a couple of years, and then someone that just recently met you. Ask them directly, what is your superpower? Meaning, like, how do you show up for them? Like, what is your superpower? So it could be you're so passionate and you have so much patience with helping others. It could be something like, I love the fact that you're just always authentic with regards to how you treat other people when I see you in public. I like the fact that you have your own business, and I aspire to have a podcast like you, and I aspire to do things with regards to coaching like you. So, like, it could be a multitude of things, right? But whatever it is that makes you authentic to them, what is your superpower? Ask them that question. And then I want you to marry the two together, right? So, like, how would they marry the two together in terms of your thoughts and my thoughts, Mark, in terms of this challenge?
Well, I think if they actually did yours first, they would have some ammunition to put into the writing. Or if they do the writing first, they might hear something that someone says that says, "Ooh, I was right on with that. That's witnessing with my spirit. That's hey, I think there's something truth to this now." Because that's the thing, right? Like, we're declaring things till we believe it, but when we hear it from other people, it confirms what we want to be. So I think those are 2 killer challenges this week. That's going to really help you move forward in your life. Yeah.
Excellent. I would say also return the gratitude and let them know what their superpower is in terms of how they have impacted you. So, like, make sure you switch roles in that regard with regards to the superpowers challenge. So, on that note, this is episode 1. So if you made it this far and you watched us have this conversation, there's going to be many more of these to come, but only for the summer. So, like, depending on how popular or how in demand this becomes, maybe we might take it into the fall. But for now, this is just going to be for the summer. And I'd say, Mark, like, this is a great conversation, like always. So I'm glad that we're able to do this.
It was awesome. Thanks so much. And make sure that put the comments and ask your questions. DM either one of us off our social media, wherever you see this posted and watched it. Just send us a message with a question. We want your questions. It's a mailbag. So send your questions in so that we can answer your questions.
There you go. And we'll have all the details in the comments below in terms of how you can submit questions, or whether you want to do it through the form or whether you want to do it through DM or in the comments, because we want to actually take comments and questions from the community and have conversations like this in the future in the summer. So
Totally.
I would say episode 1 is a wrap. Thank you for coming out, and I want to just thank everybody for taking the time to listen to us, whether it's through podcast, through this video that you're physically watching us interact, or somewhere in between. Just want to say thank you.
Thank you.